Hello and welcome. I am Ramesh Ramachandran and this is News Night. On the show tonight, a review of the 65th installment of Man Ki Baat, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's monthly radio broadcast. As we've been reporting here on DD News and DD India through the day, Prime Minister Modi covered a lot of ground in his radio address this morning. A guest will join me to analyze the big takeaways from the Prime Minister's speech. Also on the show, it is day 68 of the lockdown. We are only a few hours away from the end of lockdown 4.0. We look ahead as India enters phase 1 of unlocking the economy on Monday, the 1st June. Plus, updates from India and around the world. All that and much more coming up over the next 30 minutes in our truncated version of News Night. All right, then let's get started. First up, the headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi shares his thoughts with the nation in the Man Ki Baat program, underlines the value of Seva Shakti displayed by the COVID-19 warriors and the spirit of innovation shown by people in the fight against the coronavirus in India, adds that people still need to exercise caution and practice social distancing. Prime Minister Modi says the nation shares the pain of the migrant labour, says Indian Railways employees are COVID-19 warriors too. It reiterates the importance of a self-reliant India. Prime Minister Modi underlines the importance of yoga, appeals people to participate in the Ayush Ministry's My Life, My Yoga video blog competition, highlights the important role played by Ayushman Bharat Yojana. Unlock 1.0 to begin from the 1st June with three-phase reopening of all activities outside the containment zones. A decision on reopening of schools and colleges to be taken in phase 2 in July. Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan and Tamil Nadu extend lockdown till 30th June. In UP, places of worship, hotels, restaurants and malls to reopen on 8th June. Delhi Metro to remain closed until further notice. Nearly 87,000 people recover from COVID-19 in India. The number of active cases nears the 90,000 mark, while total cases in India rises to more than 1.82 lakh. More than 5,100 people lose their lives. The recovery rate is at 47.75% in the country. Indian Met Department says monsoon has not reached the Kerala coast. Clarifies it is expected to hit Kerala on 1st June. US President Donald Trump postponed the G7 meeting that was to be held in June. Wants to invite India, Russia, South Korea and Australia to the summit later this year. Now, in Prime Minister Narendra Modi's monthly address to the nation, Man Ki Baat this morning, he said India's fight against COVID-19 pandemic was driven by the people. Referring to the huge population of India and its myriad challenges, Prime Minister Modi said the coronavirus has not been as disastrous for India as it has been for the world. He said one of the biggest strengths of India was the spirit of service of the people. He mentioned the dictum Seva Paramo Dharma and spoke about how it is relevant in these times.
देश में सबके सामूहिक प्रयासों से कोरोना के खिलाफ लड़ाई बहुत मजबूती से लड़ी जा रही है। हमारी जनसंख्या ज्यादातर देशों से कई गुना ज्यादा है। हमारे देश में चुनौतियां भी भिन्न प्रकार की हैं, लेकिन फिर भी हमारे देश में कोरोना उतनी तेजी से नहीं फैल पाया जितना दुनिया के अन्य देशों में फैला। कोरोना से होने वाली मृत्यु दर भी हमारे देश में काफी कम है। इतने बड़े देश में हर एक देशवासी ने खुद इस लड़ाई को लड़ने की ठानी है। ये पूरी मुहिम पीपल ड्रिवन है। साथियों, देशवासियों की संकल्प शक्ति के साथ एक और शक्ति इस लड़ाई में हमारी सबसे बड़ी ताकत है, वो है देशवासियों की सेवा शक्ति। साथियों, हमारे डॉक्टर्स, नर्सिंग स्टाफ, सफाई कर्मी, पुलिसकर्मी, मीडिया के साथी, ये सब जो सेवा कर रहे हैं, उसकी चर्चा मैंने कई बार की है। मन की बात में भी मैंने उसका जिक्र किया है। सेवा में अपना सब कुछ समर्पित कर देने वाले लोगों की संख्या अनगिनत है। मेरे प्यारे देशवासियों, एक और बात जो मेरे मन को छू गई है वो है संकट की इस घड़ी में इनोवेशन। तमाम देशवासी गांवों से लेकर शहरों तक, हमारे छोटे व्यापारियों से लेकर स्टार्टअप तक, हमारी लैब्स कोरोना के खिलाफ लड़ाई में नए नए तरीके ईजाद कर रहे हैं, नए नए इनोवेशन कर रहे हैं।
And Prime Minister Modi asked people to remain alert and careful. He reiterated the mantra of social distancing, usage of masks and hand hygiene, and cautioned people against laxity.
साथियों, हम सबको ये भी ध्यान रखना होगा कि इतनी कठिन तपस्या के बाद, इतनी कठिनाइयों के बाद देश ने जिस तरह हालत संभाला है उसे बिगड़ने नहीं देना है। हमें इस लड़ाई को कमजोर नहीं होने देना है। हम लापरवाह हो जाएं, सावधानी छोड़ दें, ये कोई विकल्प नहीं है। इसलिए 2 गज की दूरी, चेहरे पर मास्क, हाथों को धोना, इन सब सावधानियों का वैसे ही पालन करते रहना है जैसे अभी तक करते आए हैं।
The Prime Minister said the nation shares the miseries of the poor and vulnerable who are the hardest hit by the lockdown. Now, lauding the Indian Railways in ferrying migrant labour home, Prime Minister Modi said the Railways employees were corona warriors too. He said the government took decisions for the welfare of the people and making India self-reliant. He said the government had averted a major crisis by taking those decisions. He even hailed the efforts of people in being vocal for local products.
साथियों, कोरोना के खिलाफ लड़ाई का यह रास्ता लंबा है। हमारे देश में भी कोई वर्ग ऐसा नहीं है जो कठिनाई में न हो, परेशानी में न हो। और इस संकट की सबसे बड़ी चोट अगर किसी पर पड़ी है तो हमारे गरीब, मजदूर, श्रमिक वर्ग पर पड़ी है। हम सब मिलकर इस तकलीफ को, इस पीड़ा को बांटने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं। पूरा देश प्रयास कर रहा है। हमारे रेलवे के साथी दिन रात लगे हुए हैं। केंद्र हो, राज्य हो, स्थानीय स्वराज की संस्थाएं हो, हर कोई दिन रात मेहनत कर रहे हैं। जिस प्रकार रेलवे के कर्मचारी आज जुटे हुए हैं, वे भी एक प्रकार से अग्रिम पंक्ति में खड़े कोरोना वॉरियर्स ही है। केंद्र सरकार ने अभी जो फैसले लिए हैं उससे भी गांवों में रोजगार, स्वरोजगार, लघु उद्योगों से जुड़ी विशाल संभावनाएं खुली हैं। ये फैसले इन स्थितियों के समाधान के लिए हैं, आत्मनिर्भर भारत के लिए हैं। अगर हमारे गांव आत्मनिर्भर होते, हमारे कस्बे, हमारे जिले, हमारे राज्य आत्मनिर्भर होते तो अनेक समस्याओं ने वो रूप नहीं लिया होता जिस रूप में वो आज हमारे सामने खड़ी है। तमाम चुनौतियों के बीच मुझे खुशी है कि आत्मनिर्भर भारत पर आज देश में व्यापक मंथन शुरू हुआ है। लोगों ने अब इसे अपना अभियान बनाना शुरू किया है। इस मिशन का नेतृत्व देशवासी अपने हाथ में ले रहे हैं। बहुत से लोगों ने तो ये भी बताया है कि उन्होंने जो जो सामान उनके इलाके में बनाए जाते हैं, उनकी एक पूरी लिस्ट बना ली है। ये लोग अब इन लोकल प्रोडक्ट्स को ही खरीद रहे हैं और वोकल फॉर लोकल को प्रमोट भी कर रहे हैं। मेक इन इंडिया को बढ़ावा मिले, इसके लिए सब कोई अपना अपना संकल्प जता रहा है।
The Prime Minister also highlighted the importance and relevance of yoga and Ayurveda in the fight against COVID-19. He said the world has acknowledged their importance for leading a healthy life. He said yoga is beneficial for community, immunity and unity. He mentioned that in yoga there are many types of pranayam that strengthen the respiratory system. He urged people to actively participate in My Life, My Yoga international video blog competition organized by the Ayush Ministry.
हर जगह लोगों ने योग और उसके साथ साथ आयुर्वेद के बारे में और ज्यादा जानना चाहा है, उसे अपनाना चाहा है। कितने ही लोग जिन्होंने कभी योग नहीं किया वे भी या तो ऑनलाइन योग क्लास से जुड़ गए हैं या फिर ऑनलाइन वीडियो के माध्यम से भी योग सीख रहे हैं। सही में योग कम्युनिटी, इम्यूनिटी और यूनिटी सबके लिए अच्छा है। साथियों, कोरोना संकट के इस समय में योग आज इसलिए भी ज्यादा अहम है क्योंकि ये वायरस हमारे रेस्पिरेटरी सिस्टम को सबसे अधिक प्रभावित करता है। योग में तो रेस्पिरेटरी सिस्टम को मजबूत करने वाले कई तरह के प्राणायाम है जिनका असर हम लंबे समय से देखते आ रहे हैं। ये टाइम टेस्टेड टेक्निक्स हैं जिसका अपना अलग महत्व है। आयुष मंत्रालय ने भी इस बार एक अनोखा प्रयोग किया है। आयुष मंत्रालय ने माय लाइफ माय योग नाम से अंतर्राष्ट्रीय वीडियो ब्लॉग उसकी प्रतियोगिता शुरू की है। भारत ही नहीं पूरी दुनिया के लोग इस प्रतियोगिता में हिस्सा ले सकते हैं। मेरा आपसे अनुरोध है, आप सभी इस प्रतियोगिता में अवश्य भाग लें और इस नए तरीके से अंतर्राष्ट्रीय योग दिवस में आप हिस्सेदार बनिए।
Right, and talking about Man Ki Baat, a differently abled beggar from Pathankot, Raju, spent a part of his earnings on social work. It did not go unnoticed. Prime Minister Modi spoke about him in his Man Ki Baat radio broadcast this morning. Raju thanked the Prime Minister for the mention.
मैं प्रधानमंत्री दा मोदी प्रधानमंत्री दा मन की बात विच मेरी जिक्र किया है। मैं ओदा भी आज धन्यवाद करदा हां। मैं अपने लाचार होंदे भी लोगों की सेवा कर रहा हां कि जो कि मेरे वर्गे कई जीव ने जो बेचारे भुखे सौंदे ने मैं उन्हें देख के अपने ते सेवा दे रही है। लोग मैनू दान करते ने और मैं प्रधानमंत्री का बहुत धन्यवाद करता हां।
And while reacting to Prime Minister Modi's Man Ki Baat, Information and Broadcasting Minister Prasar Bharati took to Twitter. In his tweet, the minister said that Prime Minister Modi's message is loud and clear. The minister cautioned that we cannot afford to be complacent in our fight against the coronavirus pandemic and must always wear a mask, wash our hands regularly and take all other precautions. And joining me on this News Night broadcast is Prafulla Ketkar, editor of Organizer, who is joining us remotely from New Delhi. Mr. Ketkar, thank you for joining us on News Night. Now, Prime Minister Modi's Man Ki Baat is always, something to watch out for. But this morning's radio broadcast was significant. It came on the last day of Lockdown 4.0 and on the eve of the first day of Unlock 1. Your thoughts on the ground covered by the PM in his Man Ki Baat address this morning? The big takeaways in your sense?
It was certainly, an important address, and as we always see, he engages larger masses in his, you can say a thought which expressed loudly. If we analyze this speech, it was in a way a continuation of his letter he had written yesterday to the people, and he reiterated the things about Corona, India's fight against Corona, and the precautions and the hardships that is still we are going to face. So it was a preparation for the larger masses.
True.
But beyond that, what I find interesting is the way he structured his interaction. He started with our fight and, saluting again the Corona warriors, identified a couple of cases related to service activities, the Sabha, and then moved on to the research and the innovation that we have undertaken in last few months. And then he moved on to, the concepts related to Atmanirbhar Bharat, where, he in a way provided substance or perhaps the path towards this idea of Atmanirbhar Bharat. While doing so, he didn't miss on three critical issues. One is related to the sensitivity of the society towards the poor, migrant and downtrodden
Right.
sections. But at the same time, he mentioned about one, because Environment Day is coming, so
Right.
the importance of following our concerns related to environment. He also mentioned about the Amphan cyclone and the way people have shown courage and bravery to fight against this natural calamity. And most importantly, as your report also said, preparing ourselves for the time-tested immunity techniques of Bharat, that is yoga. And this My Life, My Yoga, I'm sure is going to connect with not just with Indians, but globally people
Right.
will be looking forward to this competition, and it is going to create a new buzz with a
Indeed.
positive mindset. In this particular environment where you are listening about negative news and hardships and the health crisis, this positive activity is going to be very, very crucial. This will be another important way to celebrate the International Yoga Day.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, Mr. Ketkar, the PM covered a lot of ground in his radio broadcast this morning. Now, one particular issue of concern or interest to many people around the country related to COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdown was the migrant labor issue, which PM also touched upon in his broadcast. Now, you edited the organizer, and a recent issue of the organizer also, covered this issue widely. In your estimation, what's the emphasis placed by the PM on the migrant labor issue in particular, and his reference to Indian Railways and the movement of ferrying migrant labor back home from their respective locations? So, in hindsight, when you look back at the events of the last couple of weeks, how would you look at the migrant labor situation in the country today?
See, what is good about Prime Minister raising this issue is he was not in a denial mode. He accepted that there is a problem and there was a problem, but the way we tried to address it. See, if the government or the machinery is proactive and if the society is sensitive, we should understand the scale of the issue. Even if by conservative estimate, it is said that it is around 3.5 to 4 crores people who are considered as migrant laborers.
Right.
But in last 2 weeks or so, we have moved around 75 to 80 lakh people from one place to their home destinations. Now, this is a huge exercise. And, the 50-55 lakh which traveled by Shramik trains, some took the interstate bus transport, and many moved on on the roads. But we shouldn't forget that there were many organizations, many activities who were helping those migrant laborers either to take some shelter or give them some food facility, or taking them from one border state to another. That was also an important activity, and it was a social initiative. As he mentioned, that Seva Paramo Dharma is our cultural value, and our society, very positively and with self-motivation came out and took care of the people, not just in terms of migrants, but whoever stranded in their locality. They ensured that some kind of shelter and food is provided to such people.
Right.
We need to understand that this issue is not just related to food and shelter. This is basically insecurity, one because of the livelihood issue, and more importantly, when you are staying away from your roots, your village, your family, then it is all the more difficult to cope up with such difficulties. And in that sense, this social bonding, this social initiative becomes all the more important. So government machinery and society together, we have handled, compared to all other countries, and considering the volume of numbers, I think we dealt with the issue sensitively, despite some political brickbat by political parties.
All right, fair point. On that note, Mr. Ketkar, thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Right, moving on, the Home Ministry has released guidelines for Unlock 1.0 starting Monday, 1st June. The nationwide lockdown in containment zones has been extended up to 30th June. Now this even as the rest of India reopens. Right, take a look at these graphics on your screens right now. Unlock 1 will play out in 3 phases. It focuses on reopening the economy, and as I mentioned, in 3 phases. And in moving on to the next slide now, it will be focused on reopening of the economy, as I mentioned before, and all prohibited activities to be allowed outside the containment zones, but strict enforcement of lockdown will be ensured inside those containment zones. Moving on, states and UTs to demarcate the containment zones. This has been specified in the guidelines, and only essential activities will be allowed inside those containment zones. Now, international air travel, metro, cinemas, gyms, pools will remain closed in Unlock 1.0 as well. Now, phase 1 of Unlock 1.0 starts on 8th of June, and guidelines will be effective till the 30th of June. Now, phase 1, religious places and places of worship to open from June 8. Phase 1, again, restaurants, hospitality services will reopen from the 8th of June. Night curfew will remain in place, but the revised timings are from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. Right, now to phase 2 of Unlock 1. This will be decided in July 2020. Now, phase 2, decision on opening of schools, colleges and educational institutions will happen in July, not in June. Now, states and UTs to hold consultations with all stakeholders before deciding one way or another, and SOPs to be decided by the Union Health Ministry at the same time. Now, a very limited number of activities will be prohibited throughout the country. This is during Unlock 1. Now, lockdown will continue to be implemented strictly in the containment zones, as I mentioned before, and strict perimeter control will be maintained within those containment zones. And states and UTs will be told to demarcate those containment zones very conspicuously, and there will be unrestricted movement of people and goods between states, and night curfew, as I mentioned, will be in place from 9 p.m. till 5 a.m. Now, for the phase 3, dates will be assessed and then made known in phase 3 of the Unlock 1.0. At the same time, social distancing remains a must. People must wear a mask and maintain social distancing, and protection for vulnerable persons remains an absolute must. Also, use of Arogya Setu app is advisable. Right, now soon after the government released the guidelines, state governments started announcing their own specific plans. The new guidelines will be officially implemented from 1st June, though activities have been permitted from the 8th of June. So state governments have 1 week's time to come up with their own guidelines. For instance, Madhya Pradesh government has announced an extension of the ongoing lockdown till 15th June. The West Bengal government has extended the lockdown till 15th June as well, but religious places and jute mills will reopen from the 1st. Indoor and outdoor activities related to TV and cinema production, barring reality shows, will resume on 1st June as well. Now, moving on to Punjab, the government has decided to extend the coronavirus-induced lockdown till 30th June with certain more relaxations subject to federal government guidelines. The Tamil Nadu government has announced a further relaxation of the lockdown from Monday. It's allowed the resumption of public transport in all parts of the state except the worst affected districts. It permitted more employees to work even as it extended the ongoing lockdown till 30th of June. The state government has continued its ban on interstate bus transport, metro and suburban train services. Private stage carriers will be allowed to operate on authorized routes only. Showrooms and shops, including those of jewelry and textiles, except those located in containment zones, will be allowed to operate with 50% staff from Monday. Theatres, gyms, schools and places of worship will remain closed for now. The development comes a day after the federal government announced a graded exit plan from the lockdown. Now, moving on to the UP government extended lockdown in the state till 30th June with phase-wide relaxation of restrictions in areas outside those containment zones. Now, in line with the Unlock 1.0 guidelines released by the federal government, The UP government will open places of worship, hotels, restaurants and shopping malls from 8th June. In the second phase, according to the guidelines issued by the federal government, schools and colleges will be reopened, but a decision regarding that would be taken only in July. The UP government said all government offices will operate with 100% workforce. Staggered timings will be followed. For instance, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. The guidelines bar the entry of people from containment areas in Delhi to Gautam Budh Nagar or Ghaziabad. District administrations of Gautam Budh Nagar and Ghaziabad will issue separate guidelines. Meanwhile, state buses will be allowed to operate according to seating capacity. Passengers cannot travel while standing in the bus. To Maharashtra now, the government there on Sunday extended the lockdown with 30th June as mission begin again. The phased unlocking of the economy will be in 3 phases. Phase 1, which is effective from 3rd June, outdoor physical activity will be allowed. Individual physical exercises shall be permitted on public open spaces. No activity will be permitted in the indoor portion or indoor stadium. Activities related to self-employed people will be allowed with social distancing norms. Garages to repair vehicles and other workshops will be allowed to open with prior appointment. Government offices will function at 15% strength or minimum 15 employees, whichever is more. Now in phase 2, which will be effective from 5th June, all markets, market areas and shops except malls and market complexes will be allowed to function on P1, P2 basis. It means that shops on one side of the road will be allowed to be open on odd dates, while shops on the other side will open on even dates between 9 in the morning and 5 in the evening. But some conditions though. Use of trial room in a shop will not be permitted. Shopkeepers will be responsible for ensuring social distancing norms. Use of a motorized vehicle for shopping will be strictly discouraged. If any failure of social distancing is noticed, authorities will immediately close down such shops or markets. Now to phase 3, which will come into effect from the 8th of June. All private offices will be allowed to operate with up to 10% strength as per requirement. To Delhi now, the Delhi Metro Rail Corporation says that the services will remain closed until further notice. The federal government will decide on resumption of metro services in the 3rd phase after proper assessment only. Now, as an important step in greater restoration of passenger train services, Indian Railways will start 200 trains in addition to the existing Shramik special trains being run with effect from 1st May and special AC trains, 30 of them being run since the 12th of May. Now, these trains are on the pattern of regular trains. These are fully reserved trains having both AC and non-AC classes. It's been decided to increase the advance reservation period of all 230 specials from 30 days to 120 days. Booking of parcel and luggage shall be permitted in all these 230 trains. The above changes have been implemented with effect from 800 hours of train booking date on 31st May, that's this morning. Other terms, for example, current booking, Tatkal quota, allocation of seats to roadside stations, etc. are to be same as in regular timetable trains. Booking of Tatkal ticket can be done from 29 June 2020 for journey date of 30th June and onwards. Now, these instructions can also be viewed on the website of Indian Railways. That's www.indianrailways.gov.in under the head Commercial Circulars in Traffic Commercial Directorate. Now, passengers travelling by these special services will observe the following precautions. All passengers must wear cover or face mask at the entry and during travel. The passenger shall reach the station 90 minutes in advance to facilitate thermal screening at the station. Only passengers who are found asymptomatic will be permitted to travel. Right, in response to Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison's tweet about the popular Indian snack samosa, Prime Minister Modi said, and I quote here, "Connected by the Indian Ocean, united by the Indian samosa." Now, PM Modi said that once the fight against COVID-19 pandemic gets over, both leaders can enjoy samosas together. Look forward to their video conference on 4th June. Now, the tweet came in response to Morrison's tweet about making samosas. And that's a wrap on Newsnight, but news continues here. You can catch all the latest updates on our social media, mobile and digital platforms. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.